Well, we've just seen this week that the state digital ministers have agreed to collate their our state-based IDs so that we can use our driver's licenses across various state borders and so on. But as you say, I mean, if you make one big honeypot, then that's a huge temptation to the hackers. Isn't it best to just keep people's ID and information in smaller groups, in smaller places?
Yeah, I think it absolutely is, and that's sort of what we've been doing up to now. And of course, what's being proposed through this digital ID style policy is really what will effectively become a giant central database for this sort of data. It's not being said at the moment. At the moment, this concept is being pitched on the lines of having this sort of net around the government services. So, we've got all these different services, like you've described, in different states. Let's all have them under the one system, give everyone an ID number, and then it'll all be a lot easier. And these things are always sold on the sort of the hook of convenience, safety, and security. And of course, very often they're nothing of the sort. So this digital ID framework is being rolled out all across the world. The Australian model, as it was, and there was a bill that was before the last Parliament, mirrored very, very closely the pitch that the WEF, the World Economic Forum, have been making across the world in all countries. When I hear those three letters together, WEF, my ears prick up, Fred, and I start to say, hang on a minute, let's just think about this a bit more. That bill's going to come back very, very soon in a revised, presumably even more draconian, sort of model. And I don't think Aussies, and I'm not sure politics is across this yet, but this is a very, very worrying future we're setting up for ourselves.
Yes, this is the other side of this issue, and that is not just the vulnerability to attacks or hacks, but the potential for our politicians or our bureaucracy to use it to control us. Now, if you and I had been talking about this 3 or 4 years ago, people would have laughed at us as conspiracy theorists, but we have seen very vividly the tyrannical tendencies of our bureaucracies, our police forces, and our politicians during the so-called COVID lockdown. They jumped at the opportunities then when they could lock us down and force us to coerce us into taking medical procedures that many of us didn't want to do. What could they do with these digital IDs combined with, you know where this is going, combined with a central bank digital currency?
Yeah, it's almost like the three-pincer movement, isn't it? And I think it needs to be seen that way. Once again, I don't think politics and people generally are across where this is headed with surveillance, with central bank digital currencies, with digital ID. The thing I'm really, really most concerned about is the combination of all of those. And I make that observation for this reason. You've sort of summed it up quite nicely there. We saw this in COVID, really. We saw the early stages of what this can look like. And people might well say, oh, well, I trust my government and I don't do anything wrong. So what's the problem? Well, what happens when the bureaucrats get control of the show, the unelected start making decisions that you don't have any control over and start using this power more dramatically? And that's what we're looking at here, I think, is if we have a system that gives you a central ID, and that's really your ticket to using the internet or government services or collecting your tax return, whatever it might be.
Or buying
and
food.
That's tied to a digital...
Or just going to the shops.
Food, that's right. Well, that's right. So that's the point. So if we then ultimately get a digital currency, that is no money, no cash, no paper, no nothing, just a digital currency, and then on top of that, you have this rise of the surveillance state. So, you might say, well, I walk outside, a camera recognises my face, facial recognition. I accidentally crossed without pressing the button or something, and my social credit score drops. My currency gets frozen. I can't go to the shops and buy food. And it's all recorded on my digital ID forever and ever to show what a naughty boy I've been.